Hello and welcome to this digital photo video lesson. Great photos aren't always made at the moment you hit the shutter on your camera. Sometimes they can be born out of disparate pictures taken at completely different times and locations. And often it's about reading the potential of what you see in front of you. Now I spotted this Porsche in a car park and thought it could form the centerpiece of a great image. So having shot it, I kept an eye out for a background I could combine it with, and also some foreground interest that I could introduce. The final picture brings together elements from these three separate shots, but it's a lot easier than you think to marry them all up. So let's see just how it's done. Okay, so let's close down all of these images and let's open up the start image. So hit Ctrl and O on the keyboard and find the image called car and click open. Right, so here's the image of our Porsche parked in the car park here, and you can see it's got this rather ugly and distracting background going on. Now what we need to do is make an accurate selection around the edge of the car so we can cut it out and then add it to our new background. And to do this I'm going to use the pen tool, which you can find in the toolbox here, or you can hit P on the keyboard. So once you've selected the pen tool, it's now important to check up here and just make sure that you've got the Paths tool selected here, and if you hover over the icons with the mouse it'll bring up the name of them in the small yellow box. What you don't want selected is this icon here, which is the shape layers. So just make sure that you've got the Paths icon selected in that area there. One of the reasons that the pen tool is so powerful is that once you've made your original selection, it's very easy to go back and tweak and adjust it until you've got an absolutely perfect cutout. And when we're compositing images together as we are here, it's really important that the selections are so accurate. If we leave any dodgy edges around here, it's really going to give away the fact that our picture's made of separate images and not one nicely harmonized picture. Okay, so let's start making that initial selection now. The first thing I'm going to do is get a little bit closer into our subject, so I'm going to hold down Ctrl and hit plus on the keyboard just to take us in nice and close. Now it's very important that we can clearly see what we're doing at this stage, hence that's the reason we've magnified the image up so much. Now to navigate around the picture you can hold down the spacebar and just click and drag and just zoom into the area that you want to start your selection at. I'm just going to zoom in one more step there so we can now see really well what's happening. And now I'm going to click here, and that's going to be the start of our selection. Now the pen tool can draw either straight selections, like so. If you just click with the mouse, you get a nice straight edge to your selection. Or where we've got this curve here, what we're going to use is the Bezier curve functionality of the pen tool. So just click, and if you drag, once you've clicked the mouse, you'll see you get these little handles here, which allow you to control the aspect of the curve by pulling them left or right or up or down, and this gives you great control over the sort of curve that you can draw. I'm just going to zoom in again here so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Again, you can hold down the space bar, and we're just going to continue making this selection around the edge of the bumper area there. And if you can, try and stay just inside the outline of the car, as when we come to make the cutout, this will mean that we don't have any areas of background around the edge of the car. Right, I'm not quite happy with this bit of selection here that I've made, but by holding down the Alt key I can change the pen tool, if I just roll over one of these little handles here, into the Convert Point tool, and this allows you to click and drag and alter that selection that you've made. So I can change that quite easily by moving those handles there, so it follows the curve of this area a little better. And once you've done that, you can then just carry on making your selection. Hold the spacebar down again to move around, and just try and follow as accurately as you can the edge of the car there. As always when you're doing this sort of work, the more time and effort you put in now, the better the result will be at the end. So take plenty of care and be quite patient with this, and your efforts will be rewarded with a nice clean selection when you've finished. Now again, I've just gone slightly out of the edge of the car there, so I can just hold down the Control key, click and drag that back down just into the inside of the car's bodywork, and then carry on again as normal. Okay, we're coming up to quite a tricky bend here. It's quite a sharp angle. So what I'm going to do is just click and drag and put a final curve in there. Then just click and create a straight anchor point there. And then start clicking and dragging to create the curved shape of the wing mirror here. We'll just work our way around this wing mirror. Again, another sharp angle here, so just click without dragging to create a straight point, and then we'll head up the side of this windscreen, again using a nice smooth curve. Okay, we'll carry on along the roof of the car here. Nice straight and quite easy bit to select. Just keep putting in those subtle curves like so, and as you can see I'm doing this rather quickly. It gets a bit tricky here because the contrast of the image is very close on the bodywork of the car and the background, so you almost have to imagine what you're selecting. I imagine something like that will look okay. We're now down to the other wing mirror here. Let's go around that. Okay, and keep those curves as smooth and flowing as possible. Okay, and I've clicked a little bit too far there, so let's hold down the Control key, bring that back around, and then we can head along the rear side of the Porsche here. Keep these curves flowing down the side of the car. We're down to the wheel arch here at the back. Let's carry on clicking around there. Right, that's gone a little bit outside, so I'm going to hit Control and Z just to undo that, and then I can redraw that section again. Okay, so now we're down to the wheels here. This is going to be a little bit tricky as the shadow detail isn't great, so it's going to be quite hard to see what we're actually selecting. So I'll hit space again and just scroll down, and you can just see the edge of the wheel along here, the edge of the tyre. So let's click down here and try and define the edge of that wheel there. Remember, if we're not happy, we can come back and edit this after we've made our selection and put right any mistakes that we've made. Okay, and in this area here, I'm just going to roughly select what I imagine the wheel would be like. We can see the detail kicks in again around here. We'll just follow this sill around here, and then we're back, so that making another selection around the wheel. So let's try and imagine how this would go, and it would drop down there, I imagine. Something like that. Okay, let's just zoom out a little and give ourselves a better idea of the bigger picture. Okay, along the front of the car, we're just going to select something like this. Now this area is very dark, and when we come to combine our car with a new scene, this area is going to be in shadow, so we'll create a nice soft edge, so it's not too important to make a really accurate selection along this area. Okay, we're nearly back to where we started our selection. Just a case of clicking around these points here, like so. And by clicking that final point where we started, we've closed our selection off. So let's just hit Control and minus on the keyboard, zoom out a little bit, and see what we have. Okay, next, as we want to make the car's windows transparent, we're going to select these with a path as well. So I'm going to hit Control and plus on the keyboard a few times, and just zoom in so that you can see the window nice and clearly. So now when we click with the pen tool to define a path, the path we create is going to be subtracted from the selection we've already made around the edge of the car. Okay, so I'm going to start this selection down here, so just click and drag in exactly the same way that we did earlier. Again, try and stay on the inside edge of the window, click around to there, and then go down this bar here and click around the edge of the windscreen wiper, and that join there looks a little bit ropey, so I'm going to hit Control and Z, hold down the Control key, smooth that down a little, and then click a little bit lower down. That's better, I'm happier with that. Let's move across slightly and zoom in a little more, and we'll select this bit of window here. Exactly the same procedure as we just used. Click and drag around there. Now these straight bits are a bit easier to select. There we go. Let's just zoom out slightly so we can see that. And we're going to do the same here around the rear screen. So let's zoom in a bit closer, click and drag again along the top of the rear screen there. Let's put a curve in here. A little bit inaccurate there, so let's move that across. Click down this side here, along the edge of this area. Let's go down here, and we'll bring our selection up so we can close it off here, the place where we started, like so. If I just zoom out and have a look at that, that's okay. And there's just a little bit here that we could also select. So again, let's zoom in on that and just click around the edge here, like so. Okay, that looks alright to me. Let's hit Control and minus again just to zoom out. So you can see we've now got our car selected around the edge and the windscreen areas are selected too. Okay, the next thing we need to do is bring the Paths palette onto the screen. And if you can't see that, you can find it under Window and Paths. Now you can see in this palette that we've got something here called a work path, and that's the selection we've just made with the pen tool. And what I want to do now is turn this pen tool selection into a traditional Photoshop selection. And to do this, if you go to the flyout menu here, and all you need to do is go down here and pick Make Selection. And this brings up this window here, where you've got a few different options. Now we have the option to feather our selection, and I'm just going to enter a value of 0.2 in there. That'll just take off any hard edges. It'll just make our image a little bit softer and a bit more believable when we drop it into the new background. So that's fine. Operation New Selection, that's fine also. Let's click OK to apply that. And now you can see the traditional Photoshop marching ants around the edge of the selection that we made using the pen tool. Right, let's move this Paths palette out of the way and bring the Layers palette onto the screen. Now if you can't see this, you can go to Window and down to Layers or hit F7 on the keyboard. So now I'm going to hit Ctrl and J on the keyboard, which will cut and paste our selection onto a new layer, which you can see here in the Layers palette. And now if you hit the eye icon next to the background layer, you'll see our car floating on this white and grey checkerboard pattern. And this is Photoshop's way of telling us that this area is completely transparent and has no content whatsoever. So whatever we place behind our car in the layer stack will show through in the checkerboard areas. I'll just zoom out slightly so we can get a good look at what's going on. Okay, so that's the really tricky bit done. I think the selection looks okay, and we're ready to place the car into its new background. So join me in part 2 of this video, and I'll show you exactly how it's done.